Fake HOA cops Traitor strikes my Midwest. Chaos goats, and I fight back. HOA Karen Files, EP 4-inch. Hey folks, welcome back to HOA Karen Files. I'm Jack Callahan, and if you thought the drama with Maxwell Ridge and the fake HOA cops ended with Plan C, think again. Today, we step into a whole new chapter of tension. There's a traitor inside the very heart of my Midwest alliance. Jenna Cole, someone I once trusted, turns out to be a mole, feeding information to Maxwell and a bigger, darker force called the Echelon Group. This time, there are no fake cops or bulldozers, but this internal drama might be the thing that shatters everything we've built. So what will the Chaos Goats, my brother Sheriff Luke, and our entire community do when faced with betrayal from within? Help me stay strong. Hit that like button right now, just like Maggie would headbutt a traitor. Drop a comment with your theory on Jenna's motives, and don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss a second of this new twist. Let's dive in. Our victory over Maxwell Ridge and Plan C should have brought peace to the Midwest. But the black envelope I found under the oak tree shattered that hope. Inside was a photo of the Midwest Alliance meeting, with a red circle around Jenna Cole and the handwritten message, asterisk, she knew everything, and she told us. Maxwell was only the beginning. Asterisk, I couldn't sleep. Jenna Cole, a young widowed mother from the south side of the county, raising her 5-year-old son Ben, was one of the first to join the alliance. Quiet, shy, never drew attention. I never suspected her. Now, I couldn't look at my community the same. If Jenna was a mole, who else might be? The next morning, I called Luke, Grace, Sarah, and Ellie to my house. I laid the envelope on the kitchen table and said grimly, "We have a problem. Jenna Cole, she's the leak. She fed information to Maxwell, maybe even to something bigger. A group called Echelon." Grace slammed her hand on the table. "Jenna? That little thing? I gave her cornbread at the very first meeting. She fed off our table. And now this." Sarah shook her head, eyes misty. "Jack, I don't believe it. Jenna always said she wanted to protect her land for Ben. Why would she?" Ellie, in her signature backwards cap, scowled. "I don't like this. If Jenna worked for Maxwell, she knew everything we planned." Luke, calm but firm, nodded. "I'll run a background check. But we need to tread carefully. If Echelon is behind this, they might be more dangerous than Maxwell ever was." I agreed. "I want to talk to Jenna first. If she was forced into it, maybe we can help. If not, we protect the alliance." Grace cocked her shotgun. "If she sold us out for cash, I'll show her what betrayal earns." I raised my hand. "Easy, Grace. We need facts, and we need to know what Echelon Group even is." I turned to Ellie. "You're coming with me to Jenna's. Luke, check her records. Look for anything unusual. Sarah, talk to the others quietly. We don't want panic." Ellie and I drove 10 miles south to Jenna's place. Her farm was small, an old wooden house, a chicken coop, and a modest cornfield. When we pulled up, Jenna was feeding the chickens. Ben was kicking around a worn-out soccer ball nearby. She saw us and gave a weak smile. "Jack, Ellie, what brings you here? Is there news?" I stepped forward, voice cold. "Jenna, we need to talk. About Maxwell, and about your role in this." She froze, hand trembling, dropping the feed bucket. "Jack, I don't know what you mean." I held up the envelope. "Don't play dumb. I have proof. You've been feeding him information. I just want to know why." Jenna backed up, eyes glassy with tears. "Jack, you don't understand. I didn't have a choice. They threatened Ben. They said if I didn't do what they asked, they'd hurt my son." Ben, hearing her cry, ran over and hugged her leg. "Mommy, don't cry." My chest tightened. If she was telling the truth, Jenna wasn't greedy. She was scared. Used. But I couldn't take it at face value, not after what we'd been through. "Jenna, if that's true, we'll help you. But you need to tell us everything. Who threatened you? And what is the Echelon Group?" She shook her head. "I don't know who they are. They just told me to send updates. If I didn't, they said Ben would disappear." She held him tight, sobbing. Ellie whispered beside me. "Jack, I think she's telling the truth. But we still need evidence. Who contacted her? And how?" I nodded. "Jenna, we'll be back. But you can't tell anyone we were here, understood? And if they reach out to you again, you tell me." Jenna nodded, eyes red. "I swear, Jack. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted to protect my son." I turned away, torn, wanting to believe her, but knowing I couldn't risk the entire alliance. On the drive back, Luke called. Jack, I checked Jenna's file. Nothing jumps out. But I found something odd. A $10,000 deposit into her account a week before Maxwell's arrest. Came from a shell company named Echelon Holdings. I've asked the FBI to trace it, but Jack, if she was coerced, she's likely still under watch. I clenched the steering wheel. Good. Assign someone to watch her discreetly. If Echelon makes contact again, we need to know. I'm calling Cody. I rang up Cody right after. Still rocking his neon blue hair and clutching a Red Bull, he answered via Zoom. Jack, Echelon Group? Yeah, I've heard of them. Global firm, specializes in real estate acquisition and political lobbying. But they're ghosts, nothing public. I'll dig into Echelon Holdings. Give me 48 hours. But Jack, if Jenna was compromised, others might be too. Watch your back. I nodded. Thanks, Cody. Move fast. Back at home, I watched Lily laugh as she played with Daisy in the yard. She giggled as Daisy nuzzled her hand. But I couldn't smile. Not when I knew something bigger than Maxwell was watching us. And someone we trusted had already cracked. I whispered, Maggie, you ready? This drama's far from over. Maggie let out a low meh, horns catching the last rays of sunlight. I knew what I had to do. Uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. For the Midwest. For Lily. For all of us. After speaking with Jenna Cole, I couldn't shake the image of her clinging to little Ben, tears streaking her face. If she was telling the truth, that she had been coerced to protect her son, then part of me couldn't blame her. But I also couldn't afford to risk the entire Midwest. Jenna knew everything, from Ellie's tripwire traps to our private meetings at Grace Farm. If she had already leaked our plans to Maxwell, and now to the Echelon Group, we were operating at a disadvantage. I needed proof. And I needed to know who the Echelon Group really was, before things spiraled out of control. The next morning, I gathered the team at Grace Farm. Not the whole alliance, just the people I trusted most. Luke, Grace, Sarah, Ellie, and Dawn. I didn't want the rumors about Jenna to spread. Not yet. I laid the black envelope on the table and said, Everyone, Jenna claims she was forced, threatened because of her son, Ben. But we can't just take her word for it. Luke, what do you have? Luke nodded, voice low and steady. I've got an officer from Dayton, Tara, keeping eyes on Jenna's place around the clock. Last night, at 2 a.m., a black SUV without plates pulled up near her farm. A man in black got out, dropped something by her door, and left. Tara retrieved it. It was a black envelope. Inside, $5,000 cash and a note that said, Stay silent, or the boy pays. Grace slammed her palm on the table. Sick bastards. Threatening a child to manipulate his mother. Sarah wiped her eyes. If this is real, we have to help her. She's part of the alliance. She's family. Ellie chimed in. I agree, but we still need to be careful. If she's scared, she could still be feeding them updates, whether she wants to or not. Don, holding his laptop, added. I looked into Echelon Holdings, the company that sent Jenna the $10,000. It's a shell company, registered in Delaware. No public info. Our best bet is still Cody. I nodded. I've already called Cody. He's working on hacking their system. But we can't wait. Luke, keep Tara watching Jenna. If they make contact again, we catch them in the act. Ellie, you and I are going to her farm. We'll plant hidden cameras around her property. We need eyes on the place. Grace, Sarah, keep the alliance steady. Let folks know we're investigating a new threat, but don't mention Jenna. Grace raised her shotgun. Got it, Jack? But if Echelon shows up here, Maggie and I will introduce them to some real Midwest hospitality. At the sound of her name, Maggie bleated once. Asterisk, meh, asterisk, lightening the mood just a bit. Ellie and I drove to Jenna's around noon, carrying 3 small surveillance cameras Luke had pulled from the station. We parked 200 meters away and snuck through the cornfield to stay out of sight. Jenna was inside, and Ben was outside kicking around that same beat-up ball. I whispered, Ellie, place one by the east fence and another near the chicken coop. I'll handle the front. Oak tree near the door. Ellie nodded. Got it. But if Jenna sees us, she'll panic. I know. That's why we move fast. We worked quickly. I got the oak-mounted camera positioned with a view of the front porch. Ellie had just finished hers when we heard Ben scream. Mom, there's a man. I whipped around. There, at the west fence, was a man in black, sunglasses on, standing barely 10 meters from Ben. He wasn't Blackthorn, no logos, no earpiece, but I knew he wasn't here by accident. Jenna bolted from the house, clutching Ben. Who are you? Get off my land. The man smirked. Jenna, you know who I am. You missed your last report. My boss isn't happy. This is a warning. Next time, the boy won't be here for you to hold. He dropped an envelope and walked off toward a black SUV, then sped away. Ellie and I crouched in the corn, hearts racing. Jack? Ellie whispered. Did the camera catch that? I nodded. Yeah, the oak cam definitely did. But we can't leave her alone anymore. They're escalating. I stepped out from the field. Jenna. She jumped, holding Ben close. Jack? What are you doing here? I saw everything, Jenna. We know you're being forced. But we need the truth. Who was that man? What do they want from you? Jenna sobbed. I don't know his name. They call every week. They tell me to report on the alliance. Who's involved, where we meet, what we plan. If I don't, they say they'll take Ben. I don't want to do this, Jack. I swear I don't. I crouched down beside Ben, who clung tightly to his mother. Jenna, we'll protect you. But you have to help us. Do you have a number they've used? Anything we can trace? Jenna nodded, trembling. Yes. One number. They always call from it. I'll write it down. She went inside and came back with a slip of paper. Here. But please, be careful. They're dangerous. I took it and said, we're leaving the cameras. If they come back, we'll know. Stay calm. Act normal. If anything feels off, call me. Immediately. On the way back, I called Cody. Cody, I've got a number, burner phone probably. Can you trace it? The sound of furious typing came through. I can try through the carrier, but no promises if it's single use. Also, update. I hacked Echelon Holdings. Got an internal email. Echelon Group is a global corp. They buy farmland and flip it into industrial zones. Maxwell was just a pawn. The email said, Plan C failed, but the Midwest is still a target. Apply pressure. Use internal assets if needed. Jack, they're not done with you. I clenched my jaw. Good work, Cody. Dig deeper. I want to know who's running this thing. Back at Grace Farm, Sarah ran up, looking pale. Jack, we've got a problem. Some of the alliance, Hank Miller, Mrs. Delaney, they heard rumors about Jenna. They say if she's a mole, they don't want to stay involved. They're scared. Grace jumped in. I tried to calm them down, but they wouldn't listen. Jack, if the alliance falls apart, we can't fight Echelon. I slammed my palm on the table. Damn it. We can't fall apart now. Not after everything we've been through. I turned to Ellie. Come on, we're going to talk to Hank and Delaney. We'll set the record straight. Luke, check the cameras. If they show up again, we strike. I knew. If we didn't hold this alliance together, Echelon would win. Not with fake cops or bulldozers, but with fear and division. But I wasn't going to let that happen. Not while I had goats. Not while I had Luke. And not while the Midwest still had a fight left in it. After the rumors about Jenna Cole spread, I knew the Midwest Alliance was standing on the edge of collapse. Hank Miller and Mrs. Delaney, two of our most respected members, had publicly said they didn't want to be part of any group that harbored a traitor. I couldn't blame them. After everything we'd endured with Karen, Veronica, and Maxwell, suspicion was second nature. But I also couldn't let Echelon Group win by tearing us apart from within. So Ellie and I drove straight to Hank's farm that morning, determined to convince him to stay. He was working on a fence line, jaw clenched, eyes avoiding mine. Jack, he grunted. I said what I said. I'm not working with a turncoat. Jenna knew everything, every trap, every meeting. And she sold us out to Maxwell. What's to say she's the only one? I stepped closer, voice steady. Hank, she didn't sell us out for money. She was forced. They threatened her son, Ben. She was scared. Echelon Group is using fear and mistrust to tear us apart. If we fall apart now, they'll take us one by one, starting with you. He paused, eyeing me. You got proof, Jack? Or are you just trusting her word? Ellie jumped in. We do have proof, surveillance. They came to her house and threatened her again. She didn't want any of this, Hank. She was trapped. He shook his head. I don't care. I'd rather stand alone than risk another betrayal. Mrs. Delaney had just arrived, broom in hand like always. What about you, ma'am? I asked. You leaving us too? She tightened her grip on the broom. I like you, Jack, but I don't trust Jenna. If she's involved with Echelon, I don't want to be involved with any of this. My jaw tightened. This is exactly what Echelon wants. They don't need fake cops or bulldozers anymore. All they need is for us to turn on each other. They looked at each other, unsure. I hadn't won them over, but I didn't have time to plead further because that's when Luke called. "Jack," he shouted. "Get to Jenna's now. Camera caught something big." Ellie and I jumped in the truck and sped to Jenna's farm. When we arrived, Luke and Tara, the officer from Dayton, were watching footage from the oak-mounted surveillance cam. Luke pointed at the screen. "Look, 8 a.m. Jenna gets a video call from a man calling himself Mr. Harrow. British accent. Black suit. Orders her to hand over the full list of Alliance members, or her son disappears. Permanently." On screen, Jenna sobbed. "I can't do this anymore. I don't want to hurt anyone." Harrow smirked coldly. "You have no choice, Jenna. Do it, or I'll come for the boy myself." Chills ran down my spine. Echelon wasn't bluffing. They were escalating. But what happened next caught us all off guard. Jenna ended the call. She hugged Ben tightly, whispering, "I'm sorry, baby. I can't keep doing this." Then she called me. Her voice was shaky. "Jack, I can't do this anymore. They want the names of the Alliance, but I won't give them. I'm leaving. I need to get Ben somewhere safe. You have to protect the others." I turned to Luke. "If she runs, Echelon will just target someone else. We'll lose our only chance to learn more. But if she stays, she and Ben are in danger." Ellie spoke up. "Then we use her. Make her a double agent. Feed Echelon false info. Get them to make a mistake." I nodded. It was risky, but our best option. I called Jenna back. "Jenna, you can't run. If you leave, they'll just move on to someone else. We'll protect Ben, I promise. But you have to help us. Pretend to follow their orders. Feed them fake data. Lure them out. Can you do that?" She was silent for a moment. Then, "I'm scared, but I'll do it. For the Alliance. For Ben." I exhaled. "Good. We'll move Ben to Luke's house. Tara will guard him. You stay put. Act normal." But before we could roll out the plan, I got another call, this time from Sarah. Her voice was panicked. "Jack, someone came to my house. They didn't break anything, but they left a black envelope on my door. It said, asterisk, your Alliance will crumble, one by one. Asterisk, they know where I live." Ellie and I raced to Sarah's farm. She was shaking, envelope in hand. I opened it. Inside was a USB stick. We plugged it into Dawn's laptop. The screen lit up with grainy footage, secret recordings of our meetings. Grace raising her shotgun. Dawn discussing the class action lawsuit. And then audio. Mr. Harrow's voice again, smooth and venomous. "The Midwest is just the beginning. Echelon will take every farming region in America. Divide them. Make them doubt one another. And they'll collapse from within." I looked at Sarah. "They want us to tear ourselves apart. They know if we stand together, we win." Sarah nodded slowly, but her voice trembled. "Jack, if Jenna filmed all this before Maxwell was caught, how can we trust anything she says now?" I knew we couldn't keep dodging the truth. I needed to take control, fast. That night, I called an emergency meeting of the full Midwest Alliance at Grace Farm. Everyone came, some anxious, some angry. I stood on a wooden crate and faced the crowd. "I know rumors about Jenna have spread, and I know they've made us question each other. But listen, she was forced. They threatened her son. She didn't want this. The Echelon Group, the real enemy here, is manipulating us with fear. They don't need to break our fences. They want to break us. But they only win if we let them." Hank stood up. "Jack, that's a good speech. But why should we trust her? Why should we trust you?" I looked him in the eyes. "You don't have to trust Jenna. You just need to trust us. We beat Karen. We beat Veronica. We beat Maxwell. And we'll beat Echelon too, but only if we stick together." There was silence. Then Hank gave a slow nod. "I'll stay. But if anything goes wrong, you answer for it." Mrs. Delaney followed, broom in hand. "Fine. I'm in too. But that girl better not mess up again." The crowd erupted into applause, uneasy, but real. We weren't whole, but we weren't broken either. Later that night, I sat on my porch, watching Maggie and the goats wander the yard. I whispered, "Maggie, you ready for another war?" This time, the enemy's already inside. Maggie gave a soft, knowing meh, her horns gleaming in the moonlight. With Jenna now a double agent, we had a chance to strike back. But Echelon wasn't done yet, and their plan was bigger than anything we'd ever imagined. With Jenna Cole agreeing to become a double agent, we knew we were entering dangerous territory. She would pretend to comply with the Echelon Group, feeding them false intel that Luke and I crafted to flush out Mr. Harrow and his goons. Meanwhile, I had to keep the Midwest Alliance together. No small task, considering suspicions still lingered after the incident at Sarah's house. Echelon didn't just want our land. They wanted all of America's farmland, and the Midwest was just the first piece of the puzzle. I started by preparing the false intel. Luke and I sat at my kitchen table, piecing together a fake list of Alliance members, completely made-up names, fake meeting spots, and a bogus class action strategy that Don helped us draft. I handed the file to Jenna over a video call. Jenna, you're going to send this to Harrow. Tell him this is the latest from the Alliance. But you've got to sell it. If they sense anything off, they'll know you're lying. Jenna nodded, voice trembling. Jack, I'll try. But if they find out Ben... I cut her off gently. Ben's at Luke's place. Tara and 2 Dayton officers are guarding him around the clock. You just stick to the plan. We'll handle the rest. While Jenna prepped to contact Harrow, I called Cody to check in. Cody, got anything new on Echelon? Cody, blue hair as wild as ever, sipped from a Red Bull while typing like a man possessed. Jack, I just hacked another email out of Echelon Holdings. Harrow, the brick guy, is the U.S. regional manager. He reports directly to someone named Madam V. I don't know who she is yet, but listen to this. The email says, increase pressure on Midwest. If the asset fails, proceed to Phase 2, direct sabotage. Jack, they're getting ready to hit you hard. I nodded grimly. Thanks, Cody. We'll be ready. I turned to Luke. If they're about to switch to direct action, we need to bolster defenses. Get more officers from Dayton, set up patrols around Sarah's, Hank's, and Grace's farms. I'll have Ellie lay more tripwire traps around the goat pen. If they come, Maggie's got a headbutt with their name on it. Luke smirked. Copy that. But Jack, if Harrow finds out Jenna's duping him, they'll come for her. Fast. I know, I said. Which is why we strike first. That night, Jenna sent the bait. An email to Harrow with the fabricated list and meeting plans. Through a hidden surveillance feed, Luke and I watched her type. Here is the latest list of Alliance members and their upcoming litigation strategy. They plan to meet at Hank Miller's barn this Friday, 8 p.m. Harrow replied almost instantly. Well done, Jenna. You've just bought the boy some time. Don't disappoint me again. He'd taken the bait. Luke, I said, we're staging an ambush at Hank's barn. If Harrow or his crew shows up, we end this. Luke nodded. Mike and Carlos are on standby. We'll be ready. Friday night, we were in position. The barn was dark, silent. I crouched behind some crates with Ellie, while Luke and the officers, Tara, Mike, and Carlos, took up positions at the rear and loft. Ellie whispered, You really think they'll show? They will, I said. Harrow thinks he's got the upper hand, but he doesn't know we've been waiting. At 8:15 p.m. sharp, 2 black SUVs rolled in and stopped in front of the barn. 3 men in black stepped out. No Blackthorn uniforms this time, but black jackets bearing a small eagle insignia. The leader, tall, British accent. I knew it was Harrow. Check the barn, Harrow ordered. If Callahan and his alliance are here, capture them. If not, burn it. Leave a message. Luke gave the signal. Now, we burst out. Police, drop your weapons. Harrow reached for his gun, but Ellie beat him to the punch, literally. She hurled a can of old paint from the loft, smacking one of his men in the head. He dropped. I charged Harrow and slammed my fist into his jaw. He stumbled back. Luke and Tara wrestled the other 2 to the ground, cuffing them, while Mike and Carlos kept their weapons trained. Harrow spat blood, sneering. You think you've won, Callahan? Echelon is bigger than you know. Madam V won't stop. I growled. You talk too much. Tell Madam V that the Midwest doesn't fold easy. Then Harrow's phone rang, a video call. Luke picked it up and turned the screen toward me. A woman's face, shrouded in shadow, filled the frame. Her voice was cold, commanding. Harrow, you failed. Stand down. Then she turned her attention to me. Callahan. So we meet, sort of. I am Madam V. You can take Harrow, but you can't stop Echelon. This is only the beginning. The call ended with a soft, eerie laugh that sent a chill down my spine. I turned to Luke. Luke, who is Madam V? And what is Echelon planning? Luke shook his head. I don't know, Jack, but they're not going to stop. While Luke took Harrow and the other 2 guys back to the station, I returned to Jenna's house to deliver the news. Jenna hugged me, crying, Jack, thank you. I don't have to be afraid anymore. I nodded. Jenna, You did well. You've redeemed yourself. But Echelon hasn't stopped. We need you, and the whole alliance, to keep fighting. Jenna nodded. I will, Jack. For Ben, and for the Midwest. I returned to Grace Farm, looking at Maggie and the goats. I muttered, Maggie, did you hear Madam V? This battle isn't over yet. Maggie bleated, as if ready. After capturing Harrow and 2 of Echelon Group's henchmen, it felt like we had won a major battle, but I knew it was only temporary. Madam V, the head of Echelon's U.S. operations, had made it clear, this is only the beginning. Harrow might be behind bars, but Echelon wasn't finished. Not when their plan was to take over all of America's farmland, starting with the Midwest. I brought Jenna and Ben to Luke's house, where Tara and 2 Dayton officers were still standing guard. Jenna hugged me, tears rolling down her cheeks. Jack, thank you. I didn't think I could do it. I ruffled Ben's hair. Jenna, you made things right. You're part of the alliance now. But Echelon hasn't stopped. We need you, and the whole community, to keep fighting. I returned to Grace Farm, where the entire Midwest Alliance had gathered to celebrate. Grace raised a beer. Jack Callahan, you did good. Harrow's been taken down. Jenna redeemed herself. We showed Echelon that the Midwest doesn't go down easy. The crowd cheered, and Sarah hugged me. Jack, you kept us together. Thank you. Ellie, with her backwards baseball cap, grinned. Told you, nobody outsmarts us. Especially with Maggie around. Maggie, as if understanding, let out a loud meh, and the crowd burst into laughter. Even Hank Miller and Mrs. Delaney were there, still a little skeptical, but they stayed. That was what mattered. But the celebration didn't last. The next morning, while I was feeding the goats, Grace called, panicked. Jack, get over here now. My farm, they hit it. I jumped in the truck and sped to her place. The scene stunned me. Her chicken coop had been torched, fences were cut, and a black envelope had been taped to her front door. Grace, gripping her shotgun, growled. Jack, they came at 5 a.m., 3 men in black. Not Blackthorn, but they had that Echelon Eagle logo. They left this. I opened the envelope. Inside was a photo, me and Lily playing in the yard. Scrawled across the bottom. Callahan, you took Harrow, but you can't stop Echelon. This time it was the chicken coop. Next time, it's your family. My heart pounded, not with fear, but rage. Echelon was retaliating, and they were targeting everything I loved. I turned to Grace. We need to increase security. Not just for your farm, for the entire region. I'll call Luke, get more patrols assigned. Grace nodded. Understood, Jack. But if they come back, Maggie and I will make them regret it. Maggie bleated, horns catching the sunlight, like she was ready for war. I called Luke immediately. Luke, Echelon just hit Grace's farm. They left a threat aimed at me and Lily. We need more officers, and we need to find Madam V. Luke replied, Jack, I'll bring in more from Columbus PD, but you need to be careful. If Madam V's involved, they won't stop. I know, I said. I'm taking Lily to my uncle's in Dayton. It's safe there. But Luke, we have to find a way to bring Echelon down, before they bring us down. As I was about to leave Grace Farm, my phone rang. A strange number. I picked up. A deep, mysterious male voice came through. Jack Callahan, I know about Echelon and Madam V. I used to work for them, but I walked away. Meet me in Columbus. Blue Jay Cafe. Wednesday, 3 p.m. If you want the truth. I narrowed my eyes. Who are you? Why should I trust you? He chuckled. Call me a secret informant. Whether you trust me is up to you, but I know what Echelon's planning. And you can't stop them alone. He hung up before I could ask anything else. I looked down at the black envelope in my hand, thinking of Lily, the community, and the voice of the so-called informant. I knew the fight with Echelon wasn't over, and maybe, just maybe, I'd need help from someone I'd never even met. I muttered, Maggie, what do you think? Should we trust this guy? Maggie let out a strong meh, like she was in. I smiled. The Midwest had taught me one thing. As long as you've got your community, your goats, and your grit, you can face anything. And that wraps up episode 4 of HOA Karen Files. Harrow is behind bars. Jenna redeemed herself, and the Midwest Alliance stands united once again. But the Echelon Group isn't backing down. They've already struck back, threatening Jack and Lily. And now, a mysterious informant has appeared, promising to reveal the truth about Madam V. Should Jack trust him? What's Echelon's next move? Leave a comment and tell me. Who do you think this secret informant really is? An ally or a trap? Don't forget to hit like if you love Maggie and the goats, and subscribe with the notification bell on so you don't miss what happens next. Thanks for tuning in to HOA Karen Files. See you in the next drama.